I recently had a conversation with Nick Madonna. He's the CEO of PHL Collective. They're a Philadelphia-based game studio that make games in different genres, different formats, and we focus mostly on GOOZY, which is their hit mobile game. They produced it alongside a huge YouTube influencer named FGTeeV. So we talked about monetization, we talked about working with an influencer, how to build that relationship. We talked about Nick's experiences in the gaming industry, going from working in a big studio to working on his own, starting his own studio. A lot of other stuff too. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's get into it. Nick, welcome. It's great to speak with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I appreciate you coming on actually a little bit early. That's that's awesome. Well, maybe the best thing to do just to get started is to have you talk a little bit about your background and maybe how you got into building games to begin with. I think that would be a little bit of context we could use to then go into some other more interesting stuff. Not that this is not interesting, but I mean, a bit of context would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started really kind of getting into games maybe at a little bit older of an age than most people. My first console wasn't I got a Game Boy back in like '89, I think it was. So I was close to 10 at that point. But anyway, that was kind of like my start into games. Like I really started to get interested at that point and seeing, what games were, what they could be, and just kind of trying to wrap my little brain around, Mario and Tetris and all the good stuff that I was playing on Game Boy. And that really kicked off my love of video games. And over the years, I melded games and art. I was trying to focus on art in school and decided that, as I got through high school and was going into college, I wanted to pursue 3D art as a career path, and that's what I did. And
Were you
slowly
thinking games
transitioned.
at the time? Were you thinking, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking games, and I really, at the time I was in school learning that stuff, there really wasn't a clear pathway. I guess it was still an early kind of major to be in. So I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to get into games no matter what.
What
So I
was
did
coming
that,
out at
and
the time? I'm just curious.
let's see. It was like early GameCube era. It was
Okay.
that console cycle. So I was at home playing Eternal Darkness and Luigi's Mansion, the first one, and all the really great stuff on that console, and that was at the same time as original Xbox, and I was playing Splinter Cell. So I was really just trying to take in everything at that point, and it was all super inspiring to what I was trying to learn in school and trying to build. And yeah,
Yeah, that's
look, I didn't pursue art very much longer after that because I started in QA, and then I worked my way up through management from there. There's a thousand million better artists than me, but I found my spot in the industry, and I've been kind of on that same career path ever since.
Now, I heard in another conversation you did that it was doing a lot of AAA games, bigger games, and kind of just grinding on the same genre that made you think, I don't like video games anymore. I don't like making video games anymore. I need to do something else. And then that's why you started PHL Collective. So could you talk a little bit more about just the ideas that were going through your mind when you were starting PHL Collective? I mean, what are the things that you had to decide when you're starting something like that? What are we going to be? What is this? How do I know how to build a team? I'd like to hear some of your, for people out there who are thinking about doing the same thing or something similar. How do you get your head around it?
It's really difficult. I mean, you could go into that with all of the grandest ideas in the world, but they're difficult to execute a lot of times. But basically, when starting the company, I was burned down on AAA. I was doing a lot of really great games, and I worked for a really great company. But I was playing a lot of other games at that point, which maybe weren't like the larger shooters that everyone plays. I was indie games were getting big at that point. There's a lot of just kind of more maybe like interesting mechanics and colorful kind of art styles that were happening that I was really kind of getting into and really becoming interested in. And I think AAA burnout's real for I think a lot of people, and I was in that spot. And basically, when I was starting the company, I was trying to position ourselves as oh, there you go. It's my big loud dog in the background. This is,
No
this
worries.
is working from home. The joys of
It's all part of
the
it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If you see a cat just fly by the back of my head, then we'll be on the same sort of on the same page. It
Yeah.
happens. I've been
Oh
attacked
gosh.
during interviews by my cat.
Oh jeez. Yeah. It's been different. It's been different. But yeah, when starting the company, I was really trying to pivot away from what I was previously doing in AAA and try to do something a little bit different. I knew there was a lot more to explore out there, and I really wanted to focus in on that. Not saying that maybe at one point didn't want to build back to a AAA place where PHL Collective would be building bigger games, because we've kind of had the trajectory over the years where we've gotten bigger and built bigger products. But I wanted to kind of reset, start small, build smaller projects, and really kind of rejuvenate some of that creative energy which I was losing on some of the larger titles.
Does that work? I mean, do you still feel that way now that you're doing it yourself, or
Yeah, yeah. So it's really interesting. It's really weird. Yes, creatively, I was jazzed. I was back into it. I was like ready to tackle new genres, new mechanics, and with new collaborators, with the people who I'm working with at PHL Collective. But in the background, I was still playing those large games. So there was this weird kind of tug of war happening, which is like, here's some big games that I'm playing that I really enjoy, and I'm marveling at the craftsmanship that kind of go into those things. And then also I'm building smaller things, right? We're tackling different problems in a different genre or in a different kind of scope of game. And I think just taking a step back and kind of resetting what I was doing, and while still keeping an eye on the bigger things, I think really helped me kind of like reframe my head around what I wanted to build, what I wanted the company to be, where I saw us kind of moving. And, we've been lucky enough to be able to stay in business for a while and have that kind of upward trajectory and kind of get larger and build larger things as we have gone on.
well, I mean, I think it's one thing that seems unique to me is that you've worked in so many different genres and you've done games for different kinds of devices. So I'm curious how you went from, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think more of a focus on things like Xbox games and other things like that to now doing something like GOOZY with FGTeeV, which is this very YouTube centric game with this creator. I'm curious how that came about, how you thought about, okay, now we're going to do a mobile game. We were doing something else before, and how building that partnership worked at the beginning.
Yeah. So, I mean, primarily PHL Collective is a work for hire studio. So, we do create some original titles, but for the most part, we are working with partners on IP that maybe we don't own, and we worked on some Ben 10 games and a lot of Cartoon Network products. So, a lot of times for us, it's what's a really good opportunity that's coming our way? What's something that we can really see like success in, I guess is maybe a short way to put it. So for us, like we've done mobile, we've done VR, we've done console, and we continue to do that, right? We have the experience in the team that can build all of these things for any kind of partner that needs something built. So I mean, look, I guess we're like assassins or bounty hunters, right? It's like you can kind of do everything and do it well for whoever needs it. But for GOOZY, it was really interesting for us because FGTeeV is a massively successful channel, and
Right.
and Vince and his family are killing it on YouTube.
Yeah, they're juggernauts. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
For
Yeah,
anyone
they
who doesn't
just
know, they have over 18 million subscribers on YouTube, and it's incredible.
yeah. And for me personally, and this isn't a knock against them, but it was a little bit outside my sphere of like understanding and like maybe what I would generally watch on YouTube. But when the opportunity came up, and I got to learn about them and learn what they were doing, and creatively have some conversations with the family about the game and what we wanted to build, it made a lot of sense for us to partner with them. There was a real opportunity there, and we thought that like, hey, we could build something awesome together, and maybe put together some kind of different business model for mobile games or just for games in general that people aren't necessarily doing. As there's been YouTube partnerships in the past, but like, has there been one as maybe as embedded as PHL and FGTeeV?
The only thing I can think of is Tuber Simulator, PewDiePie's game, because that's part of his world. It's the only other thing I can think of. It seems like a very unique angle. So how do you conceive it with the creator? How do you balance that when you're in the creative process early on? If someone is going to do that with an influencer like Vince from FGTeeV, how would they actually go about it?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume it probably starts the same way with a lot of other projects or maybe other people, but the YouTuber, the influencer knows their audience, right? They know what gets them views, what types of games are really popular on their platform. So the assumption would be, hey, I really want to, instead of me playing other people's games, why don't I make my own in this genre? So that's kind of how this started, right? The seed of the idea came from FGTeeV, which was like, hey, jump scare games are killing it on our channel, right? They get the most views. We're playing, Granny, we're playing Piggy, we're playing all these really popular games. But what'd be awesome is if we had our own, and that's kind of where it started. We at that time were looking at other games like Hello Neighbor and some of the really popular ones that were taking off in that same genre, and we're like, okay, well, there's definitely a lot of overlap here. There's definitely some things we could do that make us different and not a one-to-one kind of rip off of another game. We really want to stand out in the pack and kind of do something maybe some other games are doing. And those were kind of some of the pillars from the beginning of like establishing what we wanted to build, how we wanted to be different, and then how we wanted to integrate FGTeeV into the experience to really kind of satisfy their fans who were like, I want to play an FGTeeV game.
How much how much is it the FGTeeV stuff, like the all-in-one gun that they use, that I think they built before, right?
yeah.
How much, which is cool that it's about the family, right? It's very integrated. How much does that stuff, the stuff that's for lack of a better way to say it, the lore of the channel, how much does that stuff shape the core of the game, the actual meat of the game itself, as opposed to being more of a skin on something that you've already built out? Here's what we want to do. Can you work in some FGTeeV lore? Is it which way is it, I guess?
It was a mix between the two, and I think it was a pretty even mix actually, where we wanted to establish a new universe, a new set of characters, and a brand of its own, while also injecting Easter eggs that fans would call out. Like, we've had so many fans like, oh, I noticed that blueberry pie on the counter from this video, or I noticed this
Yeah.
cereal box from this video. Right?
Right.
We wanted to make sure that we satisfied those people who were playing, who were like the super fans, who would really kind of dig in. And the inclusion of the family as main characters in the story, plus all the Easter eggs, really kind of helped us, I guess, inject the family in. But not make it all about them, like, specifically, right? We have we have a new alien character. We have a mad scientist character. We have you as the unknown player who is just kind of like stepping into this empty house. We felt like there was opportunities to kind of balance well and kind of do what we wanted to do with GOOZY.
That's interesting. So it's sort of striking the balance so that someone who isn't an they're not a follower of the channel, they don't watch FGTeeV, they could still download it and say, oh, I like this game, this is fun, and they wouldn't be lost in the references. But if you're looking for it and you are one, then you know everything, and that's sort of a heightened experience in the game.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was I think paramount for us to put the name FGTeeV in the name of the app. Like we had it as GOOZY. It was just going to be GOOZY, and we're like, people will find it, people will know. But then we're like, no, I think we should really capture. We should have the
Yep.
people who are searching for FGTeeV stuff on the app stores for this to kind of come up right away. They should know that this is an FGTeeV game, and yeah, those are some of the choices we made, kind of surrounding getting the family and the brand into the overall experience.
Just as a sort of point of curiosity, is it like Vince calls you and says, I need a blueberry pie on the shelf, get it done by Monday? Is it that sort of thing, or is it, or is it a little bit, if is it a longer process? Is there more pushback and back and forth? I'm just curious.
No, it's the creative process for us and the design process is very collaborative. It's very open, and we would have weekly calls and we would go over everything that we were doing. We wrote our game design document, and then would, when necessary, say, hey, Vince, here's an opportunity for you. We're not going to establish, or we're not going to kind of guess what you want. What do you want? Let's put in something that you want, or your fans are going to want. So that's kind of how we worked it, and it was very much a back and forth. Yeah, the only pushback there was in the process was just like if an idea came up, which was just like way out of scope for what we wanted to do, and it's just
Right.
like let's put that in the back burner for later. And it's like really surprise people down the line.
Let's do that in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, then on the converse of that, then, to what extent does the game itself shape the YouTube content? I mean, are there scheduled things like, okay, we're releasing an update next Thursday. It would be great if you could post a gameplay or a walkthrough on Friday so we can get some traction. To what extent does that kind of stuff happen, and how do you work that out?
That it was exactly like you've laid it out. We were in very close collaboration with the channel, and make sure that kind of our updates and important milestones that we have for the game were in lockstep with the channel's kind of release schedule. Right? They have their own channel to manage. They're doing what they're doing, but we need to make sure that yeah, like you said, videos came out, gameplay videos, like all of these really cool things which pair with the game are on a schedule that work with kind of the release of the live operations that are kind of happening with the game. So it's been really great. The FG channel has gone above and beyond what we even initially envisioned for the game and for the support there. So they built a multi-tool. They've done it on their main channel and their side channels. Like it's been great.
Well, I think it's something that it seems underappreciated, but when you kind of study it, and I was looking at the videos, and it was very clear, almost visual. Okay, they had a meeting about this a week before. It's very obvious, and they wanted to show, okay, they're showing the IAPs that they worked on. You can kind of see it, but if you're not looking for it, you might not really appreciate that. But it's something that a lot of people making games wish they had but don't have. Not every game has a built-in influencer, let alone the largest gaming channel on the planet, right? Tied to it. So let me ask sort of a two-part question then. If someone has a game and they want to include an influencer, what would be a way to make sure that or build your content such that it could be more easily promoted by an influencer, whether you have one or whether you have one connected to the game, like PewDiePie, like FGTeeV, or not? Is it possible to do without one?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, I want to say that there's like a pie in the sky of like, I made this great game, can you play it for me kind of scenario that like, I think a lot of people dream of, but in actuality, it's like, yeah, right. In actuality, I think it just comes down to business, right? It comes down to, do you have a contact with that YouTube person? Are they looking to make a game? Does your agent know their agent, right? Like, it's just one of those things that like a perfect storm of, elements that need to come together to make something like this happen. I think that's a hard question to answer.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there have been people that have made games that have like really kind of taken off. The Kaplarians team who made Evil Nun and Mr. Meat. I don't
Yes.
believe they actually partnered with a YouTube channel, but they released those games and they were snapped up by everybody. And like, Granny too was like, I don't think they had an exclusive partner, but like they made a game and then everyone was like, we're playing that, right? And it became this massive thing. So I think scenarios like that can happen, but I think if you really want a solidified maybe relationship and like the marketing support and all the other things that maybe surround what we have with GOOZY, it's really kind of a business conversation,
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the not necessarily the goal, but having a partnership would be a strategy that a game developer would actually want to think about rather than thinking, okay, we're just going to build this game and then see what we can find, but instead thinking of, well, let's maybe find a partner first and build that marketing angle into the process of building the game itself. I mean, it seems like that's something that a lot of studios aren't exploring, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great avenue to start looking at. But yeah, I would say that look, if you have a game that maybe you're really great at building or your studio's great at building, try to identify a YouTube influencer who plays those types of games, and then try to make contact and try to figure out look, does this make sense for both of us to do, and then kind of work from there. Just like any kind of studio does business development, it's going to take some kind of element of that to push something forward.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very powerful. Well, maybe we can talk about the monetization aspect. So when I was playing the game, please correct me if I'm wrong, I am seeing in-app purchases for items and things like that. I'm seeing ads that are you don't get to choose. They play, for example, when you lose a life, full screen ads, and then also optional rewarded ads that you can watch and then get something if you watch it. Is that it, or do you have other types as well? Does that cover it?
Yeah, that covers it. Yeah, our game is split between in-app purchases and ads. So there's multiple ways that we monetize within the game in a way that we feel is pretty fair for players and not predatory like maybe some other mobile apps do.
Right. Well, so between in-app purchases and ads, how do you find the right balance between those? What is your process of getting to the right balance so that those are both maximized?
Yeah, that one's been tough for us, and it's been a difficult kind of road to figure out what's best. Going into the project, we wanted to have a pretty even split between the two. Of like 50% of our revenue is coming from IAPs and 50% is coming from ads.
Yeah.
And we built the game around that, so like there was value in the IAPs, and they helped you in game. They weren't just kind of vanity items or inconsequential items. There were things that really helped you as the player perform better in the game. So we wanted to tie a lot of value to those items that we created. And then for ads, we know that look, a lot of people can't always afford to buy IAPs, so we'll put some ads in and make them fair. So you can watch an ad to revive. If you die, you can watch an ad to get some coins, which then you can use to buy some IAPs or some cupcakes or whatever it happens to be.
But the cupcakes are functional cupcakes.
Yes, yeah, that's one of the IAPs that are like actually very useful.
Right.
So we wanted to kind of strike a balance because we know that there's a lot of different players out there, right? And there's a lot of different kind of sections of that mobile player diagram where people are like, yeah, I'll throw $20 at an IAP, or like,
Right.
hey, I really can't afford that, so I'll watch a couple reward ads and I'll come back every day and play, and like I'll still get value out of the game even though I can't maybe afford to buy something. So we tried to balance it that way.
So you're sort of providing multiple pathways to the same stuff that you would need in game to feel like you're actually making progress, but for different types of player.
Correct. Yes.
But how do you do that? How do you how do you do that so that everyone doesn't just say, "Oh, wait, there's a 10-second ad"? I mean, why would I ever buy IAPs if I can just watch a 10-second ad? Is it just a matter of constant A/B testing to find that balance, or is it a a well thought out strategy in advance that's just put into place?
I mean, it's both, right? I mean, just like with anything, best laid plans always change when it goes into QA or go into test. It goes into testing, right?
Yeah.
So we laid out a strategy from the beginning with the design of the game of what we wanted to accomplish, and I think we managed to accomplish that, but maybe not exactly how we laid it out. Because when it went into testing, and we found that, like, hey, look, we might need to rebalance the distribution of coins or rebalance, how some of these IAPs or power ups work. There were slight changes and tweaks that we made based on what we were seeing regarding like player data and just general feedback. So, it was testing really kind of helped mold what the final product is. But I shouldn't even say final product because we're always tweaking it, right? We're always incorporating or looking at player feedback or reviews and saying, what can we do here? How can we improve the game based on what we're seeing from our fans? So,
I think one of the things that a lot of, because I've talked with some smaller developers who struggle with the balance between IAPs and ads, but also for ads specifically. Well, I want to show ads, but I don't want to show them too much because I know that if I show them too much, then people sort of just leave because they feel like it's constant ads. So if you're giving advice to a really small studio or developer who's just getting started, who wants to figure this stuff out and maybe doesn't have the resources to do all of that testing, what would your advice be specifically for the ads thing to get the balance right, to make sure that you're making good money, but it's not overwhelming the player, it's not ruining the experience?
Yeah. So I think that, I think most game developers like us are gamers. We play games. So playing some of the games that are on the store and seeing what people are doing, and if you as a developer or as a player aren't really kind of like connecting with their ad strategy, then that's something that you can build your strategy off of, right? There's certain things that you can play and say, hey, I don't like that. But as a developer, I can change that with my game, right? So I think that would be a very low cost strategy for any developer who wants to inject ads into their game is go play what's out there. Go see what's out there. Take some notes on what works and what doesn't work for you, and then make those adjustments based on, there's going to be a lot of people just like you playing games where they get annoyed at a ton of ads every level, or if there's not enough ads, right? It's just like, well, I feel like, there could be one here and I could maybe get some coins if I come back every day, right? So, yes, put on your developer hat, and then also put on your player hat, and kind of use the resources that you have to establish what you want to do with your IAP or your ad strategy.
So if I'm reading between the lines, play GOOZY and get get out your notepad.
Now it's out everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But take notes. And well, I played it quite a bit, and I found the balance to be nice because a lot of it was the rewarded type. There's no pressure on the rewarded type. That's all carrot, right? And so you don't feel any pressure around that. And then when you lose a life, you feel guilty anyway, right? You feel like you I should be punished for losing because I didn't get it. So there's at that moment, okay, I'll watch an ad here while I sort of recuperate and get ready for the next one. For me, sort of player experience I felt really, really well balanced.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I can't claim that we have all the answers. We've done a lot of learning based on what we've seen in other games and just kind of working with some of our partners, and we're still learning. So, there's maybe there's things I know for a fact that we did wrong, or maybe we misstepped when the game launched that we've gone back and adjusted. But yeah, I think it just comes down to experience, right? It's looking at what people are doing, figuring out what you want to do, and then keeping an open mind to admit when you've made a mistake, and then keep changing and adjusting so that you can keep your player base happy.
What has been your overall experience using the Maz platform?
Fantastic. A second ago, I alluded to mistakes at launch, and the mistake that we made was not launching with the mass platform in our game. So we launched with a different ad service when the game first came out, and we did not like what we were seeing, like not at all, based on the data that was coming back from launch. For the first day or the first couple of weeks, like we were flying to the top of the charts. We were like there was a lot going on surrounding the game, and certain elements of the game were performing and others weren't. And our ad service wasn't. So we made that switch as soon as we could, and have been working with the Yoda One team to really kind of hone in and improve and fix things to make our game perform better in that ad space. And since going with the mass platform, we've seen the changes that we wanted to see that we should have probably seen at launch. So it's been fantastic to have people who, like I said, we're always learning, and to have people who are a lot more knowledgeable than we are at some of this stuff. We lean on that team, and we have an open dialogue. And not every idea might work right now, but we are doing everything we can to make adjustments because, look, again, we want to be successful. We want this game to live on and generate revenue and expand the GOOZY brand. So,
yeah, it seems like that's cool. I mean, it seems like kind of the perfect storm again, because you have the promotional angle sort of it's locked in to that, and then on the other side, the constant iteration with multiple types of monetization strategies, multiple monetization strategies. Yeah, I think it's a perfect, not that I'm a great expert, but it's I think a perfect example of, hey, if you want to make a mobile game that is a business, look at this game and look at what they're doing, because it's powerful. Multiple monetization strategies plus the largest mobile gaming or game influencer on the planet. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I would like to just ask one more question, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
I want to know if you have just sort of big picture from your experience working on a bunch of different games, living in both console land and mobile game land, right? What are the nuances, the challenges in these different formats, these different styles that you probably have an experience of that most others don't, because you're doing things for Xbox, you've done something for Windows Phone, which is awesome. I love that. Right?
Yeah.
I want to know about that experience, the nuances and the challenges.
They are completely different worlds, and completely different models and completely different approaches. The way we build our console products that are premium products are very different than the way we build our mobile products. And for us, we always have to, again, it comes back to that reset of we're used to doing something one way. Hold on. Stop, let's reset and put our minds in this other mindset, because we need to kind of take into account how this business model works for this other platform. And for us, that's we've gotten better over the years, and as we continue to make these products, we've continued to kind of improve in both sections of games that we make. But yeah, there's so many. If you just hit mobile, right, it spider webs and it cracks into
right.
1,000 different things you can do that encompass the design of the game. And then
that's why people only do
way,
that.
And it's yeah. So a smarter person than me would say, hey, I'm going to focus on one specific thing. I'm not going to spread myself too thin. But hey,
right.
But
you're making it work.
We've been lucky. But I think it's also a testament to the team who here at PHL Collective, who's can do the amazing work and are able to kind of live in both of those those realms and both of those platforms. But yeah, the business model and the approach to design are very different for both of those things, and that's definitely one thing that I think maybe a lot of developers don't realize at first, but when they really get in and they start to figure out, how do I inject an IAP or an ad versus how do I inject, currency into my premium title, and they're very different.
I appreciate the conversation. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and I hope people watching feel the same way. Is there anything besides obviously download GOOZY and play GOOZY? Is there anything you want to mention or call out that people should check out now?
GOOZY. I mean,
GOOZY.
Our website's like woefully out of date, but like you can find our products online. So yeah, you can download some stuff that we've made, and Also, just want to say thank you to Yoda One for obviously this interview, but just helping us with GOOZY. I mean, amazing partners. So
that's great. That's
been
great.
Awesome.
Well, Nick, thank you so much again. And those watching, check out GOOZY, check out PHL Collective. Thanks again, Nick. I really appreciate it. And also for those watching, if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you can see more interviews.
Thank you.